Hello everyone, and welcome to the Primus. It's only round 7 of the very strong 1936 international tournament in Moscow, but this is basically the clash everyone wants to see. It's Mikhail Botvinnik versus Raul Capablanca, and before we check out the game, we do have a nice photo challenge. So as usual, it's twofold. For 1 point, who is the Grandmaster on the right, and for an additional point, who is the person accompanying him on the left. Best of luck to everyone, and now let's check out the game. And we also have a photo of this encounter. Now, I believe this is a photo of this encounter. Botvinnik with the white pieces against Capablanca from 1936 in Moscow. After some research I did, I found to believe that this is this photo. It is of poor quality, but it is 1936, so we can't really afford to be picky. And I've seen some sources also use this photo for the 1938 Avro tournament, but I believe this is the 1936 Moscow tournament. And from the game, Capablanca holding his head, it does appear to be this game. So let's check it out. Botvinnik has the white pieces, and he opens with knight to f3. So the reti. Knight to f6, c4, so we go into the English, e6, g3, b6, and bishop to g2. Both players fianchetto their light square bishops. We have castles, c5, and b3. Botvinnik preparing to fianchetto the other bishop as well. Knight to c6, bishop to b2, bishop to e7, knight to c3, Capablanca castles, and d4. Botvinnik wants to see either Capablanca will exchange a lot of pieces now, or he will push d5. He could push d5, and then after c captures, pawn captures, Botvinnik will go e3, and this is also very much playable. But after d4, Capablanca is a much more experienced player, of course, even though Botvinnik is very strong. Capablanca doesn't think Botvinnik can handle this position against him in a simplified version. So knight captures on d4, knight captures, bishop captures, king captures, pawn captures on d4, queen captures on d4, and now queen to c7. We have e4 by Botvinnik, and the material on the board is equal. Both players have bishop, knight, and queen in the game. Two rooks are basically undeveloped, but Botvinnik's queen is much more active than Capablanca's queen on c7. Also, Botvinnik has this very nice battery, bishop, queen, in g7 maybe in the future, so Capablanca will have to be very careful about that. Rook a to d8. Capablanca would very much enjoy getting either exchanging or pushing his d pawn, as it's a backwards pawn, it's a weak pawn, so you do have to do something about it. If you simply allow Botvinnik to pile up on it, you're just going to lose it. So we have rook to d1. Botvinnik is now preparing to occupy the d-file. Queen to b7, now perhaps threatening d5 in some variations. We have f3, adding further protection to the e4 pawn, and now knight to e8. Knight to e8, a very nice idea. Maybe preparing moves like bishop to f6. The pawn may now come to d6. Also, the knight from e8 is guarding g7, so this knight cannot do any discoveries and threaten checkmate on g7. So, a very nice idea by Capablanca. We have rook to d2, Botvinnik prepares to double up on the d-file, and now, as this rook is now very poorly placed, it's not very active, but this was Capablanca's idea. He wants to activate it via f5, and he plays this. Rook f to d1, Botvinnik doubles up on the d-file, we have bishop to g5, attacking the rook, and here rook to d3. You could push f4, kick the bishop back, but then you're just opening up your king maybe a bit too much. So after bishop to g5, we have rook to d3, getting the rook out of the attack, bishop to f6, attacking the queen, and e5 now. Bishop to e7, threatening ideas like bishop to c5, so we have queen back to f2, and now comes rook to f7. As the d7 pawn will come under heavy fire, so Capablanca prepares to defend it. Queen to d2, now with tripling his forces on the d-file, and now bishop to b4, pinning this knight, but also opening up protection of the d7 pawn from the rook on f7. We have a3, trying to figure out either Capablanca will capture the knight or go back, but of course the bishop is far too valuable to trade it for this knight. So bishop back to f8, and now knight to e2. Knight to b5 also seems like a very nice idea. Why not bring the knight all the way to d6? But after a6, attacking it, knight d6, black will simply capture it. Bishop captures, and after pawn captures, this does really stifle black's position, but after knight to f6, the other rook is coming here. You can simply push the pawn. Black will have a very decent game. So Botvinnik doesn't want to force anything. He plays knight to e2. Knight to c7, and now knight comes to f4. And now knight f4 is a very active square for the knight. You don't want to push something like g5, opening up your position too much. And now the c7 knight is pinned, as you can't move it because knight captures on e6 is coming. So we have g6, h4 by Botvinnik, and now b5. Capablanca has to try something. We have pawn captures, queen captures on b5, and now rook to c1, attacking the knight on c7. As we've said, you cannot move the knight because knight captures on e6 is a huge threat. We have queen to b7, and queen to b7 was actually a mistake by Capablanca. And here Botvinnik immediately seizes the opportunity and plays rook captures on c7. He wants to take down Capablanca with fireworks. If he took a couple of minutes more considering this move, he would have found the very simple and calm queen to a5. Now notice that there is a double attack on the c7 knight. You still can't move the knight because of knight captures here, and also the queen is now attacking the rook on d8 that is undefended. Your only way of defending this is rook to c8, but now comes rook d to c3 with a triple attack on the knight. You can't move the knight once again, so your only way of defending your position is pushing the d pawn, either d6 or d5, doesn't really matter. After you push d5, okay, the rook is now protecting the knight, but now comes knight captures on e6, and black's position is pretty much done for. You now have no longer any options. Your knight is attacked 4 times. You have to capture the knight, and now comes rook captures on c8. You win the exchange, and you have to play this position on, but chances are you will win this position with white. The older Botvinnik would definitely found queen to a5, but the younger Botvinnik obviously wanted fireworks on the board to take down Capablanca, so he played rook captures on c7. Now, of course, queen captures on c7, and as the e6 pawn is no longer defended by the knight, now comes knight captures on e6. Doesn't matter if you move the queen, that's even worse. You have to capture the knight, so pawn captures, and now comes rook captures on d8. We have f4. A very nice move by Capablanca. So notice that in this position, Botvinnik is not up the exchange. He's only up a pawn, but now he will have to use a lot of time to decipher this position, as Capablanca plays f4. So what do you do here? Obviously, you don't want to capture, so g4. Now Capablanca plays queen to e7. A very nice idea. First attacking the h4 pawn, either trying to provoke g5 from Botvinnik or king to h3. G5 would have been better, but it's very hard to understand why G5 would have been better. Botvinnik plays queen to h3, and now Capablanca goes queen to b7, now attacking the b3 pawn and also the f3 pawn. One of the reasons why G5 was better in that position. Queen to d3, only move that defends both pawns, and now comes king to g7, unpinning, now the bishop can become active. B4, you don't want the b3 pawn to be a target, and now a5. Either getting rid of one pawn, but mainly creating a weakness on the queen side. B5 and now a4, not allowing Botvinnik to push a4 himself and solidify the queenside pawn structure. G5 now. We have bishop to c5, and here comes rook to d6. Rook to d6 is a very nice idea by Botvinnik. Of course, if you capture, then pawn captures will create a very nice passed pawn and also open up a discovery from the bishop to the king. And while this is a very nice idea, Botvinnik should have prepared it with king to g2. Simply a slight improvement in the position. The king is now guarding the f3 pawn, so the queen no longer has to stay on d3. But it seems that young Botvinnik was very hasty in those days. He immediately played rook to d6, and now Capablanca can actually capture the rook. Bishop captures, we have pawn captures, opening up a discovered check from the bishop to the king. King goes to f8, and now with queen to c3, the game is very much still playable for white. Botvinnik immediately threatens queen to h8 checkmate, and black has to struggle very hard to keep playing this game. But Botvinnik played bishop to f6, locking down the position here. It seems like the black king is now doomed. Moves like queen to c3, queen to c7 are coming. But here Capablanca finds a very, very nice defensive idea. Simply king to e8. And now again you have to try queen to c3 with some queen to c6 ideas, but even then Capablanca could defend with king to d7. But then again, the position would still be playable for white. Here, after king e8, bishop to e7 was played, and now Capablanca simply takes advantage of the position, as Botvinnik has given him too much. We have rook to f5, queen to c3, but now queen to c3 isn't all that powerful. King to d7. Now queen to g7 will not come with any checks, as the bishop is now blocking, and not here Capablanca, Botvinnik plays b6. Offering the b6 pawn. If you capture it, it's not all that great, because now queen to g7 will threaten all sorts of discoveries, so black would have to be very careful here. So instead, queen to c6. Capablanca immediately offers a trade of queens, as now Capablanca is up the exchange. So we have queen to g7, threatening some discoveries here, but now comes queen captures on f3. To avoid the trade of queens, Botvinnik had to allow this unfortunate move. King h2, we have queen g3 check, king h1, queen captures on h4, king g1, now comes queen e1 check, king h2, and now king to c6, not allowing any discoveries, and you know it's a very nice square for the king. Here queen to b2 was played. You can't go d7, of course. Now the idea is if you capture with the king, bishop b4 checks the king and wins the queen here. But here black will simply ignore you, simply push f3, and even if you bring a knight into the game with check, king moves, now comes queen b2, there's really nothing to do here, and now you're getting checkmated. Check, king moves, f2 check, f1, queen checks, king moves, another queen comes into the game, and this will be rook f2 checkmate. So after king to c6, Botvinnik tries queen to b2, but now rook d5, and now queen to c2 check. Capablanca plays king to b5, and it was in this position that Botvinnik resigned the game. He resigned because there is nothing to do here anymore. After one check, the king hides on a6, and there is nothing to be done here. b7, now comes queen g3 check, king moves, and this will be checkmate. So a very interesting game, and yeah, like we said, Botvinnik had a couple of chances. First, that queen a5 idea, instead of immediately capturing on c7, he missed that. He either missed it or he wanted to, you know, really take out Capablanca with a bang. And then after Capablanca played f4, Botvinnik really started losing time, and then he blundered on move 40 you know, just at the moment that he reached time control, but you know, such is the way of chess. So yeah, a very nice game by both of them, a very nice game by Botvinnik definitely, but it seems that experience is experience, and Botvinnik definitely learned a lot from this game. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Amanda Field, Dan O'Hanlon, David Woodhouse, Danny McCullough, and Hasudin Mehonik for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, not with a video, but with my 200,000 subscribers celebratory stream and a nice Lead Chess arena. Hope to see everyone there. Thank you all, and see you soon.